Is your serve lacking power, floating long, or just feeling wrong in general? You might be making one of the most common technical mistakes in tennis, and that is serving with an open racket face. In this video, I'll break down exactly why this happens, how you can avoid it, and give you 3 simple drills to fix it. And drill number 3 might be the weirdest but most effective serve drill to help you fix this open racket face. So stick around to the end of the video where you get to see that drill. But before we go any further into how you can fix this problem, we first need to understand 3 things. 1, how this actually looks, so you get a better understanding what to look for. Number 2, why this happens. Why does the racket face open up? And number 3, why this is so detrimental for your serve. So starting with point number 1, and that is, how does this actually look? What I'm actually gonna do, we'll test you, okay? I'll hit 2 serves, and I'm gonna do one where I do the technique correctly, and the other where I show the incorrect. And we can put it up on a split screen, and then you can visibly see, without me even saying anything, the differences in the swing, and then we'll break down a little bit more in detail what it actually looks like. But here are 2 serves, one with the open racket face, one with a closed racket face. Okay, so there was a small split screen to show you the differences between the 2 motions, but let's get into more detail now on how this actually looks. And what you're going to see most commonly, as the racket starts to move over the head throughout the motion, this happens. The hit inside of the strings and the palm do this. It opens up. You can see this from the back angle and also from the side angle. So this is what's often, you hear a lot of coaches, they use the waiter's tray example because it looks like a waiter holding the tray. It's the same thing. The palm and strings open up just like this. And the next time you're in your club, for example, and you're watching leagues or watching matches, look out for it, because you know this is one of the most common errors we see on the serve, this open racket face position. Okay, what we can actually do, I'll show you my serve right now on the screen, right to my side. This was my serve around 11, 12 years ago, so it's quite a long time ago, and this was when I first started playing. And what do you see? You see that very same open racket face position. So I actually started with this very same flaw on my serve. It's a very, very common error. Okay, but now we've got an understanding now on how this actually looks. Now let's dive into the next point, which is going to be all about why this happens. So moving on to point number 2, why does this happen? Why is it so common? Now, in order to get a true understanding of this, we first need to understand essentially how the brain views it. And what I mean by that is, the most logical thing for us to do is point the strings to the ball. Why? We want to make contact with the ball. The best way to get a better understanding of that is if you take a player, imagine your family member or somebody that's never played before, and you tell them, okay, pick up a ball and serve it to the other side of the court, no one is going to pick up this ball and hit the serve like that. Very, very rare. What they're going to do instead is something more like this. They're going to stand very frontal. They're already going to start with the strings pointing to the ball, and then they're going to hit it just like that. Okay? Because this is the most logical thing to do, pointing the strings to the ball. So then if you try to tell that player, they may have started tennis like that 10 years ago. And then to tell that player after 10 years of pointing the strings to the ball that actually instead you want to keep the racket face closed, it goes against all logic. And that's why this is a very, very tough issue to fix. Okay? So that's a first understanding a little bit as to how this brain factors into it, why this happens in the brain, okay, and why it's so common. Now, let's go into some of the main also technical flaws that lead you to this open racket face. The first is the grip, okay? The grip is very, very important, and if you have an incorrect grip, you're gonna make it very difficult for yourself. Now, ideally, we want what we call the continental grip, where the index knuckle and heel pad is resting on bevel number 2. Okay, if you want more information on grips, we do have grips video on our YouTube channel, so you can go watch that. But the common issue we see is players are too far over to a forehand grip. Okay, so over to an Eastern and sometimes even a semi-Western over here. And with a forehand grip, naturally the racket is just going to align open as it goes over the head. So an incorrect grip makes it very, very difficult to fix this open racket face position. Okay, that's point number 1. Point number 2 is how players start the motion. And what I mean by this is, in the starting position, you see a lot of club players like this, where the hands are very high. Now, why is this an issue? The reason this is an issue is from here, the hands gather too much momentum as they go down. And with this momentum, it ends up looking like this here. And now what do you see behind me? The tip of the racket is now gone back towards where it's pointing to the back fence. But also, if I go with enough momentum, look what happens to my racket face. You can see this from the back angle. I gather momentum, boom. And see how naturally my racket face wants to open up with that momentum. Okay, so when players start high like this, they go too fast in the beginning, and then it leads to this racket face now naturally going to open up. Okay, so how do you fix that? Very simple. You simply just start low with the hands. Okay, you eliminate this part here. You don't need to go up and down. You just start low already. Okay, and then from there you start the motion slow and controlled. This will allow you to keep control of your hitting arm in the beginning portion of the swing. Okay, that's point number 2. Point number 3 is the wrist movement. Again, very common issue, and that is when some players, they do an excellent job of getting to the half serve position. It all looks great up until this point. But then what they do, in order to get the racket moving over the head, instead of bending the elbow to get the racket moving right to left, what players do instead is this. They flex the wrist back. And they go like that with the wrist. And as soon as they start activating the wrist like this, where they bring in the knuckles up, number one, it promotes a lot of tension in the arm, but then also, boom, palm and strings open up. Okay? Now, there are, a multitude of other reasons as to why this racket face could open up, but those are just some of the most common, okay, you want to avoid. So you can film your own serve and check that out and just see, okay, do any of these issues apply to me here? Okay? And that then goes into a little bit as to why this happens. And now what we'll go into is why this is such a power killer for the serve. And the reason this is such a power killer is as soon as you do this, where the palm and strings open up, you now tighten up the shoulder housing. And whenever your muscles tighten, you lose racket head speed. But not only that, you lose now the ability, when the muscles tighten like this and you restrict your shoulder movement, you lose the ability to get into the next power position, which is the racket drop. So this is, really why you want to avoid this open racket face position. I know a lot of you watching right now are striving to get more power on your serve. You may be really struggling to really feel that effortless power. So if you are, I just want to say that we've just created a free PDF document on the 2 key serve power moves. So if you want free access to that document, just go beneath the video and you'll find the link for that PDF. Let me show you now exactly how it should look when you perform this correctly, and we'll dive into the 3 drills which will help you master this movement over your head. Now let's dive into how it should look when you perform it correctly with the closed racket face position. First thing you're going to see is, in my half serve position, the palm and strings are already pointing slightly down to the ground. Okay, and now what I do from here, I bend my elbow, but nothing is going to change with my wrist structure of the angle of my racket face. I'm going to keep everything intact and simply bend the elbow to get the racket moving over my head. And you see this movement now. I bend the elbow and see that nothing is really changing with my wrist. The racket face remains closed. And now, at this point, you can see it's almost like the racket face is forming a side of a pitch roof over my head. The palm and strings are still relatively closed, and now it remains so as the racket starts to go down and away from my body. And you see that right now. See how it remains closed as I go down. And this is one of the most important areas, because so many players at this point, when they lose sight of the racket, that's when the palm and strings start to open up. So it's vitally important that you feel that it's closed throughout the whole loop, down and away from the body, as you can see with my serve right there. Okay, and that's exactly how it should look when you perform it correctly. Now that we have a good understanding as to how it looks when you do it incorrectly and why this happens, but also now how it looks when you do it correctly, we can now dive into the 3 simple drills to help you fix it. Drill number 1 is going to be what we call the wrong side drill. Now, I first learned this from OTI Director of Coaching Greg Lasser. okay? And it's a fantastic drill because it forces you into a closed position as you go over your head. Let me just show you a couple, what it should look like, and then we'll explain a little bit more. So looking from the back angle, I'm going to start in the half serve position, and all I'm going to do is go up and hit the ball with the wrong side of the strings. So it looks something like this. You can see from the back angle. I go up and I just tap the ball, just like that, okay? And as you can see, it looks very weird. I'm not getting much power on the ball either because I'm just tapping it. Now, the reason though this is so effective, your subconscious, if you've been doing this for, some of you may have been doing this for over 10 years or 20 years, whatever it may be, your subconscious is so used to this, opening the palm and strings up. So what we got to do, we got to exaggerate in the other direction. And we got to feel that you're really exaggerating keeping it closed. And this wrong side drill is a fantastic way to do that. Okay, so I'll just do a couple more and I'll show you how I do it. So half serve, wrong side. Ball toss it a little bit too far to the left there. Go up and tap. Okay, very strange, very weird. Now what we're going to do though, we're going to try to trick your brain. So after you've done maybe a bucket of balls like that where you've done it with the wrong side, what we can then do is work with a rotation where you do 2 with the wrong side of the racket, and then on the 3rd rotation you actually hit the ball. But this is the key. When you go and you now hit the ball, you have to trick your brain. And what I mean by that is you feel that you're going with the wrong side of the racket throughout the whole swing, but then at the last second you square off and you make contact with the ball with the right side. Okay? And be aware, this is going to feel very weird, and you may also spray the balls everywhere. Now, providing you don't knock somebody out on the other court, you're fine. It don't really matter where this ball goes. Okay, I'll show you what it looks like now. So I'm going to try to trick my brain. Wrong side, right side. Wrong side, right side. Okay, and even to me that feels very, very weird. Okay, and then what you do, you commit yourself to doing 2 with the wrong side, 1 with the right side, and just go through that progression level. And I can't emphasize enough on keeping that discipline to going through, because I know for myself, I know, when I was working on my serve, I know how easy it is to get bored of doing this and just think, I'm just going to hit balls and try to do it when I'm hitting. But trust me, if you fall into that habit, all you're going to do is reinforce the bad muscle memory. I've yet to see a player that's able to do that, just hit ball after ball and then make these technical changes. You need to break it down, just like what I showed you right here. And that sums it up for drill number 1. Moving on to drill number 2, and this is what we call muscle activation. Now, this is a training method that's not often used at all in the tennis industry. Florian Mayer developed this training method, and it's a fantastic way to give you the feeling of, again, activating those muscles which are not currently being used to keep it closed. Okay, so to do this, you don't even need a racket. It's very simple. You can do this at home. Put your racket down. You also don't need a ball for now. And what we've got to first understand is you're used to doing this, okay, opening the palm, just like that. So what we now got to do is, I like to clench my fingers up here underneath like that. So it's almost like I'm making a fist, just like this. And what I'm going to do, I'm now going to use my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to try to push my palm open. So you're actually trying to push it open like this to this open racket face. But as you're pushing, you're going to bring the hand down against that pressure. So you're activating the muscles against that force which you're trying to open it up. And you'll hold for 3 seconds and stop. So it looks like this. I push down, 1, 2, 3, release. And I do the same again. 1, 2, 3, release. And again, 1, 2, 3, release. Then what you can do, we often do this with players, so it's easier to do this, but you can try it. Essentially, that now you try to move the arm a little bit whilst pushing down. So you move as you start to bend. You bend, keeping it closed. Bend, keeping it closed. And then what you can do is you push down, remember, against that pressure. You bend and then swing. Bend, swing. And you just start to give the feeling of keeping that closed, forcing it down. Bend, swing. After you've done that a couple of times, you then pick up your racket and do some shadow swings where You now try to feel that you have that pressure. You have somebody trying to push the racket face open and you're pushing down against it, preventing it. And you've got to feel that muscle activation throughout the whole swing. Because I've noticed this with a lot of players, they only feel it until they lose sight of the racket. As soon as they lose sight of the racket as it goes over the head, then the subconscious kicks in and then it breaks down again. So try to feel that you're keeping it closed throughout the whole service action. So it looks something like this. From the half serve position, I try to feel I'm pushing down against that pressure and going through. Push down, down, through. Now also I know I've heard this from a lot of players when they are doing it, they say, yeah, but what if I hit myself with the frame here with my head, with the frame of the racket? And I like to say usually good, it's a good mistake, but obviously then we don't want to knock ourselves out. So, you know, just trust it. It's very, very rare that you actually are going to hit yourself. You know, your subconscious is very clever. It's not just going to magically bring the racket straight into your head. But that is actually a good feeling to have, though, that you keep it closed like that it feels like it's going to hit your head. Okay, that will help you keep that racket face closed. But that's a great way, the muscle activation. And then what you can do is alternate. You do maybe 2 where you activate the muscles, and then you can try and hit a ball or 2 where you again feel the same feeling of trying to keep that racket face closed. So keep it closed as you go through, and then you activate the muscles again. Now that brings us on to drill number 3, and this drill is probably going to be the weirdest drill you'll see to help you fix the open racket face. Some of you may have already seen it. I came up with this drill probably 6-7 years ago, and to do this drill you just need a water bottle. Okay, now I know a lot of you watching this may be asking, can you really fix your serve with a water bottle? And the answer is yes. If you do this drill enough and you use it effectively, the water bottle can definitely help you. Now, what I've done with the water bottle, I've filled it up just a quarter full. Okay, so it's not all the way full, it just had a quarter in it. And I've also got colored water here. Okay, this helps you see it a lot easier. But you don't need colored water, you can just have any water or any liquid in here. Okay, and then what you're going to do, you're going to set up in the half serve position like this. And what I'm now doing, I'm gripping the top of the water bottle, just like that. Now, from this point, my objective is to keep the water in the bottom of the bottle as I go through my swing. So it looks something like this. I bend the elbow and I keep the water in the bottom of the bottle. Bend, just like that. Okay, and you can see that in order to have the water in the bottom of the bottle, I have to keep this palm closed. If I do the opposite and I do this and the palm opens, where's the water now gone? It's gone to the top of the bottle. And if you were feeling really brave, or if you're just in a very hot country and you want to cool yourself down, you could just take the cap off. And if you do it incorrectly, you're going to know about it because the water is going to run down everywhere. Okay, so using a simple water bottle is so easy, but yet so effective. And you can do this anyway. If you're traveling, or if you just got 5 minutes off from work, you have water, just take the water bottle and just do this a few times, feeling it closed. And then what you can do to increase the difficulty, you take the racket back in your hand, and now you really try to envision that you're holding that water bottle again. And you can even do this with your eyes closed in the beginning. And you just feel that you're trying to keep the water in the bottom of the bottle as you go through the swing. I'm really trying to feel that here as I go right to left. Just like that. And then you can pick up the bottle again, do a few more. Once that starts to feel comfortable, you can use what we call a dummy ball toss. Okay? And a dummy ball toss basically means you're going to toss the ball up, but you're not going to hit it. Okay? You're just now going to mimic the ball toss, and your objective is to not let the subconscious kick in and to execute the old technique. What you're going to do is just shadow swing the new technique. So it looks something like this. Half serve position, toss, and go. So you can see I'm not hitting the ball, I'm just focusing on that closed position. Then again, I can pick up the water bottle, do a few more. Once that feels good, then I can actually start to hit the ball. But again, isolate everything. Come inside the court, start in the half serve position, and just go nice and slow in the beginning. If I get the ball in the right place, just like that. So I'm not trying to kill the ball, I'm just building this up in a step-by-step manner. And that's how you can use a simple water bottle to help you fix this open racket face. And so there we have it. That's a video on one of the most common technical errors that we see in the tennis industry, the open racket face. And I hope that you got a little bit of value from this video today. If you've made it to the end of this video, also just comment below where you're watching from. I'm always interested to see the different locations here. And yeah, otherwise, a big thank you all for watching. As mentioned earlier, if you do want access to the free PDF document on the 2-key serve power moves, you can go below the video and you can find that PDF. But otherwise, if you did enjoy it, feel free to like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.